This is the Our York Media Podcast, where we talk with the good news makers of York County, Pennsylvania. I'm your host, Rebecca Hanlon. This week's White Rose Award goes to Jared Kinnard. Jared works for an after-school program at one of the local PA preparatory academies. After hours, he uses the facility to run a program with local boys involved in his group called B5B, which he describes as a young gentleman's social club. The group talks about life, etiquette, manners, and how to be effective in the community while taking some days out to just have fun in a safe environment. Jared has done this for about 10 years. He says, "The only motivation I have is the thought that if not all, some of these young men will pay it forward when they get older and help the next generation to come, the way friends and family, teachers and coaches took out time for me." Do you know someone in York who deserves a little recognition? Nominate them for a White Rose. Visit ouryorkmedia.com and you'll find a nomination form under our podcast page. You may have noticed some new community pieces popping up on your social media feeds lately. We're rolling out some unique stories with the goal to take you deeper into the life of community members each month. Learn about Lori Gutman, a 90-year-old York woman whose journey began in Germany at the start of the Nazi uprising and continues today in her row home along West Market Street. Or check out our feature on Wayne Scott, known today as the organizer of the Trey and Boo Classic Basketball Tournament, but in Our York Media style, we dug a little deeper to uncover the story you might not know about Wayne. All of those stories and more can be found at ouryorkmedia.com. This week's episode is sponsored by the Parliament's Art Organization. The Parliament Arts Organization is a nonprofit arts agency in York, Pennsylvania, with a mission of bringing people together through arts and entertainment. Our York Media's Good News Initiative would not be possible without our sponsors, and we appreciate the Parliament's support of this program. For more information, visit parliamentyork.org. Today we're sitting down with Susan McDaniel, a York artist. Susan's touch can be seen in various interior designs throughout the city, which she's going to tell us a little bit about. But we have her on the podcast today because she's a woman of many talents, and we want to learn more about her. Susan, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So, Susan, why is York home for you? That's a question we're asking a lot of the guests that we're having on now.
I actually started coming up to York as a freelance photo stylist for the Bon-Ton. I was living in Washington, D.C. I was dating my husband-to-be, and we found that his work was going to bring him up here as well. So after we married, I moved up here, and we've been here we'll be married 24 years, so it'll probably be about 25 years.
Okay. Very exciting.
So it's almost a quarter of a century. It's amazing.
Time goes really fast.
It does.
How did you kind of get into York with your own art scene as an artist that was coming into the area? What did it look like for you at that time when you first moved up here?
That's a very interesting question, because when we arrived, we had been living in Washington, D.C. with a ton of artistic friends and lots of social engagements that revolved around the arts and the museums, and we were well connected. My husband's a furniture designer, and he knows a lot of people in D.C., and they know him. So it was, when we moved up here, it was like moving to an outpost. We were really we had each other, but we didn't know anyone.
Yeah. And
we joined York Arts, and at Creative York now, but it was York Arts then, and it was tremendous. It was like, oh, here they are. Here's our people. Here's our family.
Yeah.
And it spread from there, and we got involved in their programs, and then of course you meet one and you meet another one.
There you go. A web of connections that
Yes.
you kind of discovered. What is your chosen medium, would you say, as an artist?
I'm definitely labeled as a fiber artist, and I'll gladly take that.
Okay. So can you give us some examples of where people maybe have seen your work, but they don't know that it's you? where would they find that in York?
Well, in my shop now at Venture in beautiful Royal Square, we have tried to curate some of the best of local artists. There are 3 women, myself, sort of the chief instigator, I call myself, and we're trying to make the community understand that just because you choose a certain medium that is traditionally known as a hobby, knitting, crocheting, whatever, we have, it can be elevated to an art form, and I feel like we have done that, and we're showing it, and people are embracing it. It's great.
Where did the idea for that come from, to make that kind of a hub for Venture?
Well, I think that you look for something that isn't there, and I believe that the community we have some wonderful two-dimensional artists, we have wonderful sculptors, we have, all these different people, and we want to enhance that neighborhood of artists, and our specialty is fiber, so there you go. We're going to do that.
Yes. Can you give us some examples? You mentioned knitting and some other things, but what does that kind of art look like? Well,
let's just say that I think that as fiber, it's surprising how much that encompasses, because you can do two-dimensional art with fiber, as you can take quilts, and like Polly Stetler is an amazing artist who uses quilting as her medium, and that's fiber. So my friend Joanne Chavone is a paper artist who does extraordinary things with handmade papers, and that is also fiber. So, the things that we have, like our hand-bound books from Joanne, or the beading from Karen, because her beads are woven together and create an item like the rings that I'm wearing, or any of her work is so textural.
Yeah.
So Karen Paust is my spirit animal. She's just great.
She inspires you.
She absolutely does. She lives out in the country, and her vision of the world is skewed through that, looking at nature and seeing things. And I'm kind of a city mouse, so I stay in town and try not to get my feet dirty. And she's out there plodding through their land and the game lands up north, and hunting mushrooms, and she brings it all back and makes amazing things to reflect that.
It's beautiful.
It's wonderful.
Where do you find your inspiration?
Well, different places. I think that I've been sort of a little butterfly, kind of flitting from one thing to the next. So I don't think people who know me for one thing.
Okay.
Some people would say that I'm a hat person, because my husband wears my one-of-a-kind felted hats, and they're not shy, little quiet hats. They're pretty wild and crazy, and so I've gone from there. I've gone to making ornaments. I just like to pick things up and say, what are you going to be to me? What, and that inspires me. The materials are actually what lead me down that yellow brick road or rabbit hole or whatever.
What's one of your more memorable experiences from creating something that spoke to you and you transformed it?
Well, Karen first taught me how to knit, and that was I should say my mother tried, God bless her, but she wanted everything to be very precise and perfect, which is the way that you should do it.
Okay.
If you're learning how to knit, you should learn how to do it right. But I was stubborn, and Karen came along into my life, and she said, well, every accident that you make is just an opportunity to be creative. And I said, absolutely. This is
That's what you were waiting for.
I was waiting for that. And so she taught me basic skills and then sort of set me loose. And I became involved with more and more people that were a part of that world. And we were all sort of, we would run down to, do you remember when Uncommon Threads was in Waco? It was across the street from the Mission. It was a beautiful yarn shop.
I don't know if I'm familiar with that.
Oh, it was so great. It was run by Beth Lutz and Kathy Yost. And they provided a space where we could just pop in, sort of like instant family. And I was doing a lot of traveling. I was a photo stylist at the time, and I was out during the week, and I'd come back, and it would be like a plug-in into my community. And there was so much laughter, so much fun. And the result of that was a show that we put on in 2011 called The Pink Tank. We rented space from the City Art Gallery.
Okay.
And we had it up for a month. And it was a very interesting moment in York art culture. And I made about 400 crop circles, because I'm from North Dakota originally. And they were these really colorful circles that, and then hung them all over the walls. But there were 12 of us that were part of that group, and I would say that's the thing I'm proudest of at the moment.
Really?
And I'd like to do it again in 2021 as a 10-year anniversary.
Okay.
And do some amazing things.
That sounds really neat. Very cool. Something very different for York.
I think so, and I think that in 10 years, with the Pinterest posting and all that comes along, people understand that is that's a really happening, fun thing, and it's not looked upon as just some little old ladies, even though a lot of us are.
That's okay.
Yeah.
What do you think you love most about art in York, and what do you think it is that we need yet?
Well, I guess I love the camaraderie of the York artists, and we run such a gamut, but there's a huge amount of talent in this town in all aspects, and we have support from the city and the Cultural Alliance and different organizations that do fund grants and things to help us try to make it. I guess what I'd like to see is people perceiving art as not as something that's fun that people do and therefore devalue it, but something that is incredibly valuable to our community, to our lives, to our children's lives, to show them that there's beauty in this world and some things that aren't so beautiful that can be expressed through art. And I would really like to see more people taking art seriously, I guess, in a fun way.
How has art in that way impacted you? You've made it a career, yet it's also an outlet. How do you, experience that in your own life?
Well, I think that without expressing art through my fiber works. I'm currently working on a 7-piece suite of works for the Yorktown Hotel when it opens. I was one of 12 that was picked, and actually I think that there are 3 fiber artists that were picked, which was, out of 12. That's amazing. So we're very, very happy to be chosen and to be a part of that. And I think that that when I look back on my life and what I have contributed to York, is a sense that we are all able to come together through art and through activities involving art. Like for instance, on First Friday, we're doing a make your own Valentine's table, because people just like to play.
Sure, yeah.
And they're bringing their kids, of course. So.
Oh, yeah. That's very family friendly. Very appropriate for that audience.
Yeah.
The Yorktown one, that's such a neat example, I think, of how artists in York can really contribute to some very big, exciting things. What does that feel like for you to be able to make those kind of contributions?
Well, huge and daunting, because I know that these pieces will be hung for a considerable length of time. They won't be there forever, of course, but when I first came up to freelance for the Bonton, I stayed at the Yorktown.
Oh, okay.
And I always thought, what a sweet place this is. It was like a grande dame that was kind of down on her luck. She needed some help. She needed some, maybe some new makeup, or
yeah.
Actually, probably a lot of makeup.
Somebody spruce her up a little bit.
Yeah, but so elegant. And what I remember about staying there were the people that were there. I remember all of the people that would run through on business and sit in the shop downstairs on Market, and I really felt like it was a community, and I'm so happy that that it's being revived again.
Yeah, I think it's some great stories to come. I think those memories are really cool, but some new stories to come.
Well, and I can't believe that I'm going to be.
You'll be part of it.
I'll be a part of it. I'm just thrilled. I think March 14th they're having a opening Meet the Artists at Market View.
Okay, I know they've been kind of talking about some things like that. You can kind of get a behind the scenes.
It's been a long time coming. Yeah.
Well, good things, big things are sometimes hard to do. And take a while. So that's
and one thing I've learned from working with Josh Hankey and the guys at Royal Square Development and Construction is that the minute you start working with an older building, the budget just, you start opening up walls and going, oh man.
It's full of surprises.
It's full of surprises, and mostly ones that you don't want. It's not good bags of money hidden in the walls. It's usually plumbing that needs to be addressed or something. But I've enjoyed working with them so much, and I'm so grateful to see York become a place that I am proud to call home, and I'm really grateful for the people who are putting a lot of money to make that happen. Louis Appel, God bless his soul, and all of the people who have continued to follow that example of giving back and saying, we're not going to let this town go away.
Yeah, we need those people. But thank you as well for your own contributions, because it takes everybody rolling up their sleeves and contributing something that they can and whatever that looks like. So I think you've done that in your own way.
Great. Well, I'm just going to continue working in that direction.
Good. Well, I'm excited to see what you put together for Yorktown, and we'll keep an eye on your work going forward. Thank you for coming in and sharing with us a little bit.
It was so much fun.
Good.
Thank you.
Before we end, have we mentioned how grateful we are that you're spending your time with us? Each time you listen, download, or even better, subscribe to our podcast, you're helping support us in our mission to give York something better to talk about. For more information on Our York Media and our Good News Initiative, you can visit ouryorkmedia.com. We want to thank the Parliament for sponsoring this episode. We appreciate their investment into helping us share our community stories. We really couldn't do it without them. The Our York Media podcast is produced by Will Hanlon and Ken Brueggemann. I'm Rebecca Hanlon. Thanks so much for listening.